everyone, welcome back to Be Not Afraid. I'm Cara Bartholomew. I know it's kind of complicated. I'm really excited, and I think I might need tissue for today's conversation because I'm talking to a senior from Utah Valley University where Charlie Kirk was killed. I really wanted to talk to conservatives because their experience at UVU, I think you might find um, illuminating would probably be the best word that I can find for it. You know, 4 years ago, my family moved back to Utah from Washington State to get away from a lot of the insanity that was going on, and we thought this would be a safe place. One of the reasons that I want to have this conversation is because I have a high school senior, and suddenly I found that UVU is not a place where I would send him. So we're questioning those things. So today, my guest is Caleb Chillcut. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, spot on.
Great. And we're just going to have a conversation. I hope you'll join us. I hope that you will like, share, subscribe. And even if you decide not to subscribe, just share this because their voices matter just as much as any other groups. So thank you, Caleb.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
So I was just telling you beforehand that I was just listening to Charlie's kind of round table. I can't think of what the group was, but the ones that do the one person against 25 other voices. And I was listening both to prepare for this and also because I teach a bunch of high schoolers to critically think. And some of them have, gotten their opinions off of TikTok alone. And I wanted to hear how Charlie treated other people. Now, did you know him yourself?
Not personally. I've met him a handful of times, but yeah, nothing that I could speak upon.
And did you work with Turning Point, or were you just happened to be there because your thumbnail is with you and him that day?
Yeah. So I'm the chapter president for Turning Point USA at Utah Valley University. I've been chapter president for about 3 years now.
Okay.
So I've been involved with Turning Point on the college level as much as I can be.
And just tell me what that was about. I just want to dig in. What is it like leading an outspoken conservative group at
Yeah.
UVU?
I mean, it's different for sure. I went to a high school where clubs weren't a thing. So coming into an environment where there was such a big emphasis on clubs, especially at university level, was a bit of a foreign concept for me. So I initially joined Turning Point just to find a sense of community, like-minded community. I joined all the conservative groups that I could, and Turning Point was the one that just kind of stuck around. And then I became chapter president. And from that first day I became president, I had a mission. It's kind of sort of similar to what Charlie preached, was Turning Point is a club for everyone, regardless if you're a conservative, you're liberal, you're left-leaning, right-leaning, whoever it is. If you love America, that's the club for you. Let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. Let's have these peaceful conversations. And so, yeah, 3 years ago, I set out to preach that mission. And I mean, there's been some great times. There's been some pretty bad times as well. But only positive experiences that I could really share. Just being in such a just proud, loud voice on campus.
Tell me about some of those great experiences. Were you able to change the minds of any people?
I wouldn't say I've changed minds. I mean, I think I've changed minds in the sense where people are more understanding of what Turning Point is, what Charlie's mission was. So there've definitely some times where people come up to us already pretty defensive, calling us fascists and Nazis and all the fun names that you could get called as a conservative. But after talking to these people, yeah, there's been a good handful of times where they walk away with a smile on their face, not because they owned the right or they caught me in a catch-up question or whatever like that. They never caught me up. But it's just we've had a peaceful just enjoyable conversation where even if we disagree peacefully, we disagree agreeably. And those have just been some of my highlights, especially being on while on campus with these students.
So Caleb, I'm old enough to be your auntie, and um, that's that's how I grew up. We
Hmm.
would have normal conversations. Nobody had to agree with each other in order to be friends. There wasn't this great division. Um, what do you think caused it?
I'm going to sound like an old person. I think it was technology. I think it was the rise of social media. People get defensive. They become keyboard warriors, where they find that there's no consequences for their actions or what they're saying online. And I mean that's true to this day. I get some horrible, just awful DMs on Instagram, on Twitter. People just saying the most awful things I could possibly ever lay my eyes on. Um, but I guarantee that if I ever ran into those people in person, completely different story, because consequences are face to face. You have consequences when you speak to people and like face to face. And I think one of the leading causes of this division, this political divide, is just the social media presence. All these people, like I said, on campus, we're speaking face to face. There's no screens to hide behind. There's no keyboard warriors. So you have to either own up to your beliefs and the things that you're saying, or maybe even put a mask on and not share your truth. But that still walks away peacefully. You're not ending up in a fist fight or calling people slurs or just the most horrible things you could ever read, because you'll have to face those consequences. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest causes of this divide is, yes, technology, social media.
However, you were there when Charlie was killed. We do know that the violence does come out into the real
Yes,
world.
it does.
Have you experienced any of that or
Um,
only online?
Thankfully, no, I haven't.
Okay.
Besides September 10th, I haven't experienced this political violence, this divide that we've been seeing day to day. I mean, I look at my good friend Nick Shirley, just what he goes through in person, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
To see people dehumanize someone to the point where they just become a hateful ideology, or an ideology they see they need to be eradicated. And we saw that with Charlie, with Tyler Robinson. He saw Charlie as just the ideology that he needed to get rid of, not as a father, as a son, as a dad, as a human being. He saw him as this evil, just non-human. And when you get to that point where you see other people as non-humans, then you can justify violence. And it's an unfortunate, heartbreaking thing, and that it's growing right now rapidly.
Do you see it in school in terms of an ideology? I don't know what courses you take, but do you take anything where this kind of insidious thing is seeping through or no?
Personally, I don't. I haven't seen any professors kind of preach that that hate.
Yeah.
Um, but I've got some friends who complain to me that, oh, I'm in a anthropology class and I had to talk about race and gender, like things like that just don't really seem like they fit the course that they're taking. But the students on campus as well, I feel like I'm starting to see a slight increase in this dehumanizing feature factor. Um, there are some clubs on campus that definitely see me as a fascist, who Nazi, eh, the worst names. And if it weren't for just the amount of people around us, I'm sure I would have been attacked. Just based on just how I've known these people, and I try to talk to them every time I see them. I always put on a friendly face and say hey, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like the tension is growing. Absolutely.
And I'm assuming that these clubs would be like the Democratic Socialists clubs.
Yeah.
We I mean, we watch them start to happen in the high schools.
Hmm.
There's all sorts of divisive clubs. Our school does have a turning point. It took 2 years to get one,
Oh,
but
wow.
they got one after Charlie was, killed.
Hmm.
But, um, these clubs are presented as something that is safe and welcoming and inclusive, but they tend to be very exclusionary of ideas that they are told they
Yeah.
shouldn't believe in. Um, so because you haven't had to deal with those face to face, let's go to the people on the internet that you've had to deal with.
Hmm.
Do you hate them?
Absolutely not. No. I mean, I see these comments come in, and I really just have to laugh it off. Obviously, there's always a thought in the back of my head, like, what if they do get me? Which is a very real thought that I'm sure everyone on the internet has if they ever get a hate comment or a hate message, or a death threat or anything sort of violence towards you. But I don't let it eat at me. I don't let it keep me up at night. I just kind of just have to laugh it off. Just think it's funny. That's the best way I could keep a positive attitude at these people. Yeah, so I
I'm
don't
not
see
so
it
good
as.
at I'm not so good at finding it funny. I was not a big follower of Charlie's. My son's a little bit younger, and
Mhm,
so he wasn't someone I listened to. And then right after he died, I made a comment that my son was one of the people who ran back outside and said, "Does anybody need first aid? How can I help them?" While there were people up on top who were cheering, they were
mhm.
literally, celebrating. And we know it's funny to me because people will comment, "Nobody was cheering. That's ridiculous." And I mean, social media is forever, guys.
Yeah.
so so it did happen, and, because I made that comment, I got flooded with people making all sorts of super racist comments and then saying
Mhm.
Charlie Kirk said that. Now, I've never seen him to be, um I in the things that I've watched since then, I've never seen racism. I've
Yeah.
seen hard conversations, but I've never seen racism. I'm sure you've heard those kind of things. What are the things that you've heard that were the most like the people get into your face and they're just kind of like, this is what you believe that you truly don't?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I get that on both fronts, those questions, well, those people in my face telling me what I believe religiously or even politically. And I don't know if I've got an exact example of any of these claims, but they're always missing context or missing nuance or just missing yeah, really just missing context, missing the full scope. I could these people take one sentence out of context from Charlie. For example, the black pilot
Mhm,
that everyone's seen around saying
mhm,
that Charlie's the most racist man because of this. If you read the full quote, if you watch the full video, um, he's not saying that he's scared that a pilot is black. He's saying that because of these DEI initiatives that these airlines are pushing, saying, "Hey, we're going to hire based more on color than we're going to base on experience." That's not him saying I'm scared of black people. It's just saying, "Hey, I'm scared that they don't have enough qualifications." And so examples like that, where they're missing the context, they're missing the before sentence, the after sentence. I get that a lot, especially with my religious beliefs or political beliefs. And like I could, for example, take a quote from like Dr. Seuss, take one line from something like he's a jolly guy,
mhm.
and say, oh well, Dr. Seuss says this because of this one sentence that he has in a book or in a quote that he has somewhere. You know that's not true. You know, Mr. Rogers never said that he hates women or like anything like that. But you take one sentence out of context, and now all of a sudden they've created this whole new personality for this individual, and then they believe that that's the entire truth. And I think that's unfortunate that people have this conception in their heads that that's just how life is. But it's not. You have to understand the context, and you have to understand what that person's trying to say. I feel like any sort of senior like English class at high school would help you understand that. But here we are.
That's an interesting one because a lot of schools are being taught to have the kids focus on pathos, otherwise known as
Hmm.
emotion, and not logos, which is
Interesting.
logic, right?
Yeah,
So how old are you?
I'm 23.
Okay, so you're 23. Um, have you seen that? That's what I see in society is a lot of
Hmm.
people just going with their emotion and trying to have a rational conversation just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Do you see that
I've
or
definitely seen that. Yeah, and I think that goes in with what I was just saying, that people just take things out of context and they just get so emotional about it, and then the emotions bring out the anger, emotions bring out the violence. My dad, he taught me at a very young age. I have a younger brother, so brothers are gonna fight. We're gonna beat up each other. We're gonna get very angry with each other. Um, but I remember he told me, like, hey, think about this logically. Think about, like, understand why your brother's upset, and then understand why you're upset, and then talk about, just figure it out. Just logically think about it, logically process it. And I mean, the same lessons are taught in law school. Studying law right now, and like there's the same very thorough process and steps that you have to go through. You just can't say, oh well, I think that this case should have this result because emotionally I feel this passionate. You're gonna have to have some hard times as a judge, as a lawyer, where you may not believe, emotionally you may not believe this is the outcome, but logically this has to be the outcome. And I try to apply those teachings, those lessons in every conversation that I have, just to kind of not only keep myself level headed, but also understand why this person's coming at me the way they are, what they believe, and why they believe that. So it's an unfortunate thing that emotions are starting to outride logic and reasoning, um, and I hope that hopefully that can be course corrected uh, in the near future.
well, I find that so interesting that you said law school because seems to me that a lot of our institutions are kind of corrupted. There are
Mm,
a lot of lawyers who do go based on emotion. I see,
yeah.
especially, and I can say it because of, well, you can't tell by the lighting, maybe, but there's a lot of Black female lawyers who
Hmm.
do tend to go straight into everything's racist. They're kind of steeped in CRT stuff. So I'm glad to hear that you're going to school and you're still being taught that logic is
Yeah.
a priority.
Yeah, I think I've been really lucked out with my professors. Absolutely.
That that makes me feel good because like I said, when I went, because we were there, and when we went to I had a piece. Okay, he can go here. It's not too far from our house. This will be fine.
Hmm.
And then that happened, and it was just like, well, okay. So let's talk about Sharon Says So,
Yeah.
and that. How did you feel when you found out she would be the speaker for because it's your graduation?
Yeah, I was shocked. I didn't know who she was. I had a journalist actually reach out to me asking for a statement and gave me some screenshots and some links to her initial post, and kind of reactions of what other people are saying. And when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, that's not right. That's a bit of an oversight, I feel like, from the university. Um, and I made a statement. It's on my Turning Points Instagram page right now, where I basically say that it's a slap in the face that that Utah Valley University is, quote, a place for everyone. That's their slogan.
Right.
But they try everything they can to not make conservatives feel welcome. Um, and I made that statement, and then the university got back to me and said, "Hey, we saw your statement. Um, we're happy to give you guys a separate room and a separate building on campus if you were to um, have a protest or have a second, like a different commencement speaker. And that just seemed like even more of a slap to the face, because they're saying, hey, you guys are we're more than happy you guys to throw your little temper tantrum. You just have to do it. We're just going to segregate you guys into a different place on campus away from us. And that felt that felt wrong, especially that they're paying this person to be basically the face of the university for all of these graduates. And I said in my statement, I have no issue with her speaking on campus. I have no issues with her as an individual. I have no issues with her. I mean, I'm upset with what she said, yes, but she has the right to say whatever she wants. It's just the fact that she is the commencement speaker, it was my issue, and a lot of people online didn't really seem to understand
Right.
that. I saw a lot of comments saying, "Well, free speech is dead. Turning Point doesn't support free speech." We do. If she's the commencement speaker for next year, fantastic. Like that's more than great. But the same school year on the same campus where Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a radical leftist, and then to bring someone who kind of minimized Charlie's death, his impact on students, especially my generation, and then kind of backtracked and then made a not really great apology. I don't even think she has officially apologized. She just said, "Hey, political violence is bad." To summarize it, it was just bad. And now I see that she's also playing the victim online as well. She is like no accountability for the things that she said. No, and the university hasn't even taken accountability either. And I mean, I'm grateful that the university listened to all of our voices, but I'm disappointed that they aren't taking accountability and saying, "Hey, we messed up." Instead, they made some supposed threat of violence as to the reason why she can't speak anymore. And I mean, we'll have to see if that holds true or not, as in terms of if there were any threats of violence. But from what people are finding out online right now, doesn't seem like there has been. So yeah, grateful that the university listened to us, disappointed on their reaction and their response to it all, but just overall just disappointed at the actions of the university.
Well, in Marxist thought, which I would say that at least Astrid qualifies as a Marxist, in Marxist thought, they believe that the reaction is the action.
Mhm.
So, or the reaction is the revolution, I believe. And what that means is the fact that you guys got upset is the point they wanted. They wanted that
Mhm.
point because if you can get upset, then they can play victim and they can get a lot more people to go, the same thing. I find it very interesting that they're like, if you want to throw a fit. I mean, and they didn't use those exact words, but they
Yes.
said, if you want to go into your own room. I see a lot of people saying, well, why don't Trump supporters protest as well? We don't protest because we don't believe it's effective. We believe it
Yeah.
causes chaos. That's why. Um, Conservatives who are graduating want a respectful
Mhm.
and celebratory and professional event, not a drama fest.
Yeah.
So I think that it's funny that you said slap in the face because that's exactly what I said when I saw it. I was like,
Mhm.
this is 100% a slap in the face. And I would go as far as to call Sharon Says So or Sharon McMahon a propagandist.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is she's dropping little hints to people who have the attention of goldfish. So I told you I'm really direct. So so they have the attention of goldfish and they're going, oh, that's what I know about history now. So now they'll
Mhm.
say, oh, the world is terrible because of slavery, but they can't hear that, say, Anthony Johnson started chattel slavery. They can't hear
Mhm.
it because that is not what Sharon said. That's not what
Right.
Sharon told them to think. And then she
Mhm.
gets to be America's history teacher. And that's a bad look
Yeah.
for people who love history,
Mhm.
for education, for an institution of education. It is a bad look to have somebody who doesn't look at the whole picture when
Yeah.
presenting to her people. Now, um, I had a situation. I've had 2 situations at UVU.
Mhm.
Um, one of them, actually 3. 3. There we go. 3. Um, one of them, I was invited to basically a DEI conversation with a Black professor who wanted to tie in that LDS people should line up with Blacks in terms of oppression because they were kicked out and treated badly. So
Okay.
Marxist. Like, then I had I was asked to speak to a bunch of counselors that were grad students,
Mhm.
and they were the question that they wanted to discuss was how critical race theory should be brought into K-12 schools. Spoiler alert, it shouldn't. It's still
Yeah, I
Marxist. It's
agree.
going to make our kids miserable. Okay, but this is how I learned that UVU had a cancer.
Mhm.
And the person who asked me, one of them, actually the Black professor in that situation, he was actually quite pleasant, but the angry white liberal woman, otherwise known as the awful, was not so pleasant and got, pretty heated. And this young man, your age, said, "How do I grade my students' papers without considering their race?" And my jaw kind of fell, right? Because I
Mhm.
thought, I don't want my kids going to a school where that's being considered. My kids are just as American as apple pie. So I'm like, I don't want that for them.
Yeah.
I but I knew that that cancer was there. So you alluded to that it's how hard they are on conservatives at that school. I want you to go there. Tell me what it's like to be a conservative on campus.
Uh, I mean, I think UVU is a lucky school, in the sense that since it is open enrollment, you do get all the crazies, and that's putting it nicely. Um, but at the same time, you also get the conservatives who didn't want to go to BYU, didn't want to, or couldn't get into BYU, or they just want to be in Utah County still, and close to home. So thankfully, the conservatives kind of find their own, in a sense.
Okay.
But then you have like I said, the open enrollment crazy lefties, um, who honestly I couldn't even tell you if they actually go to class. um, there's protests every week on anything and everything. There was there's people always flipping us off, people screaming at us, laughing at us. We had this one person when we tabled come up to us, and then cut up one of our wristbands. But the rule with that we have is if you take it, it's yours. So we don't care what you do. But they made sure to make a big emotional statement where they picked it up and they started cutting it right in front of us. And we are like, all right, dude, as long as you clean it up. Like, but people are unhinged. People come up to us screaming the "We Are Charlie Kirk" AI song, and again, like I said, you just kind of have to laugh it off, because then we'll be playing their game. We'll be playing exactly what they want us to do, and what they want us to do is have this freak out like liberals do. to put it plainly, they want us to have the same sort of reaction that they would have if we came up to them and did the same stuff. Um, and like you said, we don't protest because we find it ineffective. We don't do the things that these are people who do to us because we find it ineffective. I don't care if someone comes and flips us off, but that makes them feel good. But yeah, we have students who would draw swastikas on our equipment, and then we just have to go and draw over it. And it's unreal, but from what I've told, we're one of the better schools in terms of these liberal reactions, towards us, which I just only makes me feel sorry, and it breaks my heart to all the other chapters, Turning Point chapters on other college campuses. And I just pray for them, because if we're like the good school, I can only imagine what it's like down the road or at University of Utah or Slick or especially University of Utah, where students are pretending to get shot in the neck at turning point tables, which is atrocious. And that's not even something that you can really laugh at.
No, it's not.
And so I just have to share my appreciation for the campus police on those campuses who take action. And we've got campus police with us while we table too, just in case of the same behaviors. But it's unreal that at a higher education facility such as universities, there are people here acting as if we're in middle school. And it genuinely feels like
I teach I teach middle school as well, so
it generally feels
worse.
like elementary school, middle school drama.
Yeah.
Like I graduated high school almost 10 years ago, and I don't want to deal with that crap anymore. But here we are, these grown
Yeah.
adults still acting like it because I couldn't tell you why. I couldn't tell you why they're still like this.
I think a part of it is because mental health and outrage are like poor mental health and
Yeah.
outrage are normalized.
Hmm.
So we did this a couple of Michelle and Barack Obama put forth an idea that they should have change makers as school counselors. Change makers means social justice change agents, right?
Hmm.
So, and that happened when they were in office. So over 10 years ago,
Yeah.
that this idea came, and then we normalized mental health issues. We made it so that in some of our high schools, we have clubs where kids are counseling each other.
Wow.
That's scary because,
Yeah.
well, they're moody little teenagers, moody little teenagers, like guiding each other is really frightening. But the problem with it is more so than just their moods are that they're taught that social justice is mental health.
Hmm.
And I find social justice to be social injustice. Another thing, this was HB 261. It was a couple of years ago. And under the Biden administration, there was literally quotas on how many white males could go to colleges.
Yeah. Wow.
It was insane. And I went and said, this is wrong. And I went to the Capitol and I spoke against this because I'm looking at my classrooms filled with majority boys.
Hmm.
And I know my own child who looks like a leprechaun. and, and I'm sitting there going, how do you discriminate? How do you justify this? One of the
Right.
words that I hear that I'm constantly going, what is this? Is the word kindness.
Hmm.
And I feel like it means something very different. How would you define kindness?
That's another good question. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with kindness, but kindness is also a danger to, I guess, being a pushover in the sense. And I see that a lot here in Utah politics, the Utah niceness as it's becoming to be known as. Someone told me, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but kindness does not equal was it civic service or something along those lines. I don't know. And it stood out to me because it's like, you can be kind, but it doesn't mean you're a good person. You can be kind, and if you're too kind, people will abuse that and they will take advantage of you. And we see that here in the Utah politics. We see that across the world, where people who are just genuinely good people just get taken advantage of. And so, I mean, yeah, to answer your question, kindness doesn't mean that you're necessarily good, but also doesn't mean you're necessarily bad. And there's a sweet spot, I guess, to it, where you can be nice, you can be kind, but you can also be firm. You can also put your foot down and say, no, this is my opinion, this is my belief, this is where I stand, and I'm not budging on it. But I'm still going to be able to respect your opinion, and I can still love you for that. But I'm not going to let you walk all over me because you're not as kind as I am, or something like that. I don't know. That's how I feel about it, I guess.
When I think of one of Charlie's most controversial things, and this is one of the things I saw a lot of the day after he was, well, the day he was killed, was that word empathy. And
Mm,
people really have a hard time understanding empathy, but there's a difference between being truly empathetic, which says, hey, I see you're hurting. How can I help you?
hmm
And tactical empathy that says, hey, I see you're hurting. How can I use you?
yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, a lot of organizations get used
Mm,
by people who are looking for that kind of opportunity to get in. I have one parent who is saying, I have a child interested in maybe UVU, but I'm a bit nervous about what she will deal with there. That's where I fall. Like
yeah.
I was speaking at one event and I believe it was Astrid. It may have been someone else, but definitely a female up high in leadership got up and walked out because I was talking about, do you know what social and emotional learning is?
Not really.
Okay. Do you know, have you heard of the idea of terraforming?
No.
Okay. How about, and maybe this has never happened to you, which would be great, and you'll clarify it for me, but this idea
hmm
that people tell you there is a right way to be a good person and you
hmm
should be following that, and that's the only way. So in other words, social justice, which I call social injustice, social justice is the right way. If you don't adopt these ideologies, you're a bad person. um that stuff is coming into lower grades.
Wow.
So it is, we do things a certain way, and if we don't, then we're not a good person.
hmm
You don't see that in the at college level.
Probably not from what I've seen. I mean, I was definitely taught that um, growing up my whole life that there is a certain way to behave. There's a certain what it means to be good. There's definitely a definition for that. But the difference I feel like from your example to my example is that was taught at church. That was taught under the pretense of you need to follow Jesus Christ and his teachings. What he did, he was an example of good. And I feel like what you explained to me, and I could be wrong, they're saying that without Christ. They're making their own Christ, and through social justice, or whatever other term you want to buzzword you want to use in to fill in Jesus Christ.
Well, and that's
And
perfect because a lot of people are changing Christ's values. So they're
yeah,
still saying Christ. They're still saying a Christian would behave this way, not this
hmm
way. And that way is oftentimes very unscriptural.
yeah, yeah. Or
So
maybe I'm just like too stubborn of an individual to to let that budge me. I don't know.
I love it though, because if you are a strong person with this strong exterior of, things roll off my shoulders,
hmm
it seems like it's possible to make it through this.
Yeah,
Because I was talking to another, well, he's Chip. Do you know Chip?
I do.
Yes.
He's a
Okay.
great friend.
And he was talking about like having his window egged
Wow.
and the kind of things that they do. So it's interesting to see that different people have different experiences. Now he has on top
hmm
of that also, um, being a different persuasion,
Yeah.
but it's still, it's still, it's hard for me to watch people get to take this, the mantle of kindness when they're some of the cruelest people.
hmm
That's that's what I see in broader society. But if you
Yeah.
can get through school without experiencing that, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah,
Somebody
maybe
said,
it's just a me issue. I don't know.
"You might just be lucky." It might be the accent. Oh, don't pick on him. He's part of the marginalized groups.
Could be that.
So, sorry I told you. Really, really blunt
That's
on
good.
this one. Um, Someone says it's a reversion of a primal state, tribal, not individual, so much as an agent of the group, carrying out the program and purifying it as if one were the immune system for the group. Yes, I read that a little bit off. Sorry, guys. Classical liberalism is great, but its Achilles heel is expecting people to behave well naturally. So then you
Yeah.
get into this issue of, yes, we're trained certain things, but the question becomes who gets to train you on what is good.
Mhm.
Your family and my family may have very, very similar difference or similar, a lot of similarities, but in that place where we're different, do you get to impose your ideas above mine?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that comes to a bit of a tricky road to navigate. But if you can civically disagree agreeably
Yeah,
is a great term that I heard recently. Um,
yeah.
you can talk about your differences, how you were raised, your beliefs, the reasons you believe said things, and then I can come and say, "Oh, I disagree with you. However, this is why I believe what I believe." I'm not here to change your mind. You're not here to change my mind. We're just here to understand each other. And I think that's where the strongest way to reunite the country, reheal this broken divide is just through understanding each other peacefully. Um, and I've seen that happen in school, and hopefully, I'm hoping as much as I can that it could heal across the world as well.
So is it happening in school though? Are more people coming? Are the clubs growing? Is Turning Point growing? I
Yeah.
mean, especially with all the crazy social media
Hmm.
stuff about Turning Point, right? Are you seeing growth or reduction?
We're seeing growth.
You're seeing
Um,
growth.
Yeah, it exploded after September 10th, which obviously it would. We had a lot of students come up to us say, "Hey, we didn't even know there was a Turning Point chapter on our campus." Or we had this one person say, "I was actually planning on creating a Turning Point club after Charlie died. So I'm so glad I met you guys." But our club, it slowed down a little bit since the semester went on and the new year started. But we're still growing. We haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't had any sort of drop off or any people leave the club besides people who are graduating. And each new semester, I get excited just for more growth, more people. And I know it's similar. I've heard similar stories across the state, across the country, with other chapters who have experienced sort of the same thing.
And you've been the president for 3 years?
Yeah, for about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you start it or did you
No,
take
it's
up
been
the mic?
it's been a chapter for about, I think I was told, about 9 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's been around for a while.
Okay.
It's just hasn't really been that prevalent that on campus. And I noticed that too when I first joined Turning Point at UVU. I was like, these guys don't really have much of a presence on campus. And so that was another one of the things that I really wanted to push for, was to make our club known on campus. And yeah,
And
now we're one of the biggest ones in the campus, I believe.
wow. So you didn't face opposition like the Republican club faced in
Not to my
terms
knowledge about
from administration.
yeah, from getting the club set up and everything like that, I don't really know if there was much pushback. We have faced quite a lot of pushback this semester as new rules, I guess, are put in place for all the political clubs in terms of guest speakers, locations, times you can table, stuff like that. But I've definitely been a thorn in the club department side this semester, and I've definitely been a bit more harsh, I would say, maybe put my foot down a bit heavier than I would typically, to make sure that the club department doesn't discriminate against us. They are equal in their actions with other clubs who may be left leaning. So yeah, I've been a bit of an annoying individual on
But you've had
campus,
to be. You've had to
but
be
I've
to
had to
make
be.
it
Yeah,
equal? No,
yeah.
no, I mean, to make it equal. So is their first inclination to be a little bit more discriminatory against Turning Point?
It definitely seems like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
We definitely faced some questionable pushback. Things that we were allowed to do last semester, we now had to do differently this semester. We tried to get a couple guest speakers on campus this semester who we thought we would really enjoy listening to, only for the club department to tell us, you have to do it in these specific rooms. You have to pay us security fees, things that we weren't experiencing last semester. But from what I was told, maybe again I'm just kind of too hopeful. The club department is doing that just because of the UVU administration, the presidency's office are making these rules and trying to figure out kind of how to navigate safety and campus like safety since September 10th. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that they're discriminating us for the sake of discriminating us, being conservatives. And this is me just being hopeful. But it's them just kind of navigating how they can all kind of just balance just the not fairness, but also just the safety for all students on campus. But we'll see what next semester looks like, I guess.
This person says, I had a strong impression of UVU as intersectional leftist when I visited 8 years ago. I expect they really want to prove they're not BYU. What do you think?
I could see that. I think I mentioned earlier in this call that there are a lot of people who don't want to go to BYU who then decide to go to UVU just because we're so close to each other.
Yeah.
And I definitely see some students on campus who I guess act better than everyone else. That like, hey, I made the decision to not go to BYU, so screw you guys. And I've definitely seen that with specific students. But at the same time, one of the main reasons why I went to UVU was because some of the professors teach at BYU
Okay.
and UVU at the same time. And
Yeah.
so I kind of figured, hey, I'm getting a BYU education at UVU. I can't really complain with that. So that's the reason, one of the reasons why I joined it. And I know a few of my friends had the same sort of thought process as well, in terms of like the honor code and all the other rules that BYU has. But since most professors teach at both institutions, I was like, well, I'm not really losing anything. But then at the same time, there are other students on the other side of the thought process who are like, yeah, I hate BYU, I hate the Mormons, I hate everything that Utah stands for. So I'm going to go to UVU to show them who's boss. And
well, and a lot of times it's people who have left the church who are more radical than just your normal everyday person. Like they have an axe to grind kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said emotional maturity is a construct of the cis heteronormative white supremacist colonialist hegemony. Yeah, that's all I've got there. How does kindness relate to the big five trait? Well, that's the thing, is kindness. I have a friend who will say kindness is what kind of person are you supposed to be? That's what they mean by kindness. And I would say terraforming. I'm very concerned, especially with things like the dignity index and rating speech, that there isn't a managerial class that is coming towards you guys. Somebody says Caleb is the goat. That's Riley. Another person says teddy bear Jesus. Absolutely. A Jesus who cannot save, because it's just something fluffy to hold close. So this is kind of getting me feeling better about my child going to BYU. I mean, not BYU, UVU.
I mean, I think I just really lucked out with my time at UVU. I've definitely had professors who were obviously liberals, obviously who were left-leaning. Definitely had Trump derangement syndrome. Definitely had professors like that. But I took I'm political science major with an emphasis in American government, and I have a minor in constitutional studies. So I feel like my degree, my specific area of expertise, kind of leans more conservatively. But at the same time, there are a lot of professors who my friends are just hating. They're pushing through the mud because they're just so liberal. But I mean, I feel like that's expected at every institution. So I'm not trying to like black pill that comment, but
people send their kids here to Utah expecting that they'll be sheltered from a lot of the extremism. And I know that
Yeah.
when I went to the DEI kind of division thing, one person who came in there was a professor, and he goes, "You have no idea how scared I am to be around all of you guys." And I sat there going, I literally will leave this room with two guards next to me because I'm afraid to walk out to my car. So
Wow.
please don't tell me that you're the one who's afraid. Oh, yeah. As a minority who speaks out against this stuff, it
Mhm.
is it's an issue. Um, and so, but it was crazy that it was a professor, and we were all people who are, involved in politics. And so it was crazy to watch this grown guy. I mean, he did have like his Che Guevara shirt on, right? But um, but I mean, to me, it looks like drag. I see so many theater kids, and
Yeah.
and and I love theater, but I don't love it when they're pretending that's real life.
Yeah.
3 years ago, UVU, Melissa Nielsen, sorry, I'm looking, Autism CTR had a week-long event with a conference, and it focused on if you are artistic, you are also going to explore gender and sexuality. Have you seen those kind of links where, do you hear that term intersectionality at school or no?
Not not really. I guarantee if I ask some other students who aren't
Yeah,
in the same sort of circles that I'm in, I'm sure they probably have. But yeah,
I
I've
think
just
your
I've just
course
really
is
lucked
just
out.
your course is planned. Once you get to constitutional studies versus people who hate the Constitution, it's
Yeah.
you've got your safe niche. So,
Yeah.
um, okay, so Charlie dies.
Mhm.
What's the grief process for you guys like out there? On, yeah,
Uh, we it was a rough few weeks for sure. We I saw the chapter blowing up. A lot of people were eager to get involved, eager to participate, and we gave it about a week and a half before we kind of put ourselves back on campus. We hosted an event like a pizza party just to kind of gauge just how big the chapter has grown, and we doubled in size. We had about 40 people show up where we'd have about 10, 15 people on average show up. So that was fantastic, and we all just kind of spoke about how we were doing, just kind of together as a community, just being with each other. We had a company from North Carolina reach out to us who focus on um, trauma kits, trauma response kits, how to identify PTSD, anxiety, stress, like all the things that come out from traumatic incidences like a school shooting. Um, and they were awesome. They donated a big box full of these kits and these ways on how we can cope and manage our just just our bad negative emotions. They focus a lot with victims of the Ukrainian war. So they hand these kits out to Ukrainian refugees and people who are victims of that war. So they've just been just fantastic for us. And so we were able to hand those cards out on campus as well to students who were there and say just like how they can deal with the trauma. Obviously, this doesn't override therapy or going to a therapist or getting real emotional help, but it's a good way to kind of identify if you're having a panic attack, PTSD induced attack, anything like that. And so those guys have just been amazing. The company's name is Cope Kit. Not sponsored for you, but they definitely helped us out a lot. And just the sense of community as not only chapter but just conservators on campus was just so just welcoming and warming as well. Found out that like yeah, our chapter exploded about 150 new members in just that week, and so all of us coming together just to kind of to mourn, pay our respects, and just be together was just it was healing. It's just the best way to put it. It was healing.
How about walking past where it happens? Um,
Hmm.
I've been back maybe 3 times.
Hmm.
Um, and we try to do something like every month as an organization, but um, w- what is that like being on the campus where this happened just 7 months ago?
It Going back to the courtyard was also a bit tough. Um, Obviously, for obvious reasons. I took it upon myself to kind of take that leap of faith one day, where I didn't have much going on. I finished with school for the day, so I was just kind of walking around campus, and I said, you know what? This is going to be uncomfortable for me. This is going to put me out of my comfort zone. But I retraced my steps from that entire day, start to finish, while on campus. And I pushed myself into that uncomfortable zone where I relived the memories, relived that day as much as I could. Um, and that it's different for everyone else, but that was healing for me. I was able to kind of process exactly the trauma, process the steps like that. But then the scene on campus was quite interesting. The first few weeks, campus reopened, and we were tabling again. The same typical people that would come up to us and flip us off, call us names, just kind of trash on us. They came up to us and said, "Hey, we're sorry that happened. That shouldn't have happened. You have our condolences." Where some of them said, "We're praying for you." It was really just a political neutral zone, and it was sweet. It was nice that we had that support net. Hey, we don't agree with you. I know we come off and laugh at you, but right now we're gonna be respectful, and we understand what you guys are going through. And that was fantastic. But then a couple months after that, it like craziest thing. It explode the radicalism exploded on campus. We had radical leftists um, who were setting up ICE protests to the point where Homeland Security was coming for a career day,
Right.
and the university got so many threats where they had to call in police and get metal detectors just for Homeland Security, um, under the pretense that this was an ICE protest. ICE was never even there,
Okay.
but the threats that they got from these radical leftists
Mhm.
just months after Charlie was assassinated was shocking, to say the least. And now I feel like it's kind of cooled down in a sense again, back to before Charlie came on campus, where it kind of like this returned to normalcy, um, where the conservatives we're here on campus, we're loud, we're proud, but the leftists are also loud and proud, and we kind of have that mutual respect for each other that we're just gonna both exist on campus and we're just not gonna butt heads. So it's been a really interesting 7 months, politically speaking, on campus.
That seems healthy for your age. There was an old movie called Politically Correct University where all of the people I mean, it's funny because this movie is made like in the 90s and
Hmm.
everyone is um like you watch it and you laugh and you go, "Oh my gosh, how could it be like that?" And now today that is every campus it seems like except for maybe Hillsdale. Um but the fact that you guys can have those feelings, because I don't think that I could be around a bunch of leftists and not feel like I needed to travel in a group,
Hmm.
just because it does seem like that's getting heightened. I have one last question for you, and that is, I guess two. The first one is, are you concerned about the midterms changing things? Like after, statistically speaking, oftentimes, the party that wins loses in the midterms.
Hmm.
I'm watching a lot of what, Democrat social, strategists are saying, and they have no intention of, quote, unquote, "showing any mercy." So, how do you continue to be loud and proud and strong and brave and young? Because, you guys lost your hero, as far as
Yeah.
I can see. Um, and how do you do it? And also, how do you do it? Again, going back to what they've done with social media, the Candace, especially the Candace, right? Like what and I know it's funny, but there's a crap load of people who believe
Yeah,
that stuff.
there really is.
So, how do you guys as young people keep going? And what is your plan to continue on even if we are facing really hard times moving forward?
Yeah, it's funny actually speaking about midterms. That day on September 10th, I remember I was driving home and I turned to my friend and I said, "Well, I guess we just won the midterms," because a conservative figure who won 2024 for us basically was just assassinated. And I was like, the initial response should be from the conservatives, we're going to push this as wide and as loudly as we can to remember, hey, Democrats, you guys just killed our guy, and then you celebrated it. You're celebrating it right now. That
Right.
should be enough push to win the midterms, which hasn't happened since like the 30s. I feel like maybe even 2004. I think that was the most recent one.
Yeah.
Um, but then the conservative just movement just kind of fell apart. We really lost our central being. Charlie was there to kind of slap people into shape
Yeah.
on both the left and the right, and unify each other. And coming into midterms, which is in a couple months, yeah, I mean, I'm worried for sure, but it's interesting to see, and I know polling isn't the greatest like teller of what's going to happen, but you look at 2018, you look at 2022, you look at all the midterm years, whoever's in power, the polls say that they're losing by double digits, and like major double digits. I think 2018 it was like 24% to the Dems, and then in 2022 it was like 12% to the Republicans, something like that. Only we're in April, so only like 6 months till the midterms.
Mhm.
We're still in single digits from what I've seen on the polls, which I find quite interesting.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying this as to kind of hope that we're just going to win the midterms. I don't think we will. I feel pretty safe in the Senate. The House does worry me still, but it's interesting to see just how close the polls are still to this day. So I don't think that it's going to be a big blue wave that people are preaching. And this is just my take. There's no um, proof to back my claims. It's just kind of how I see it. And at Turning Point USA at UVU, even though I'm leaving, I told my next president, "Hey, come the primaries, come the midterms, we're doing a shuttle service. We're going to whoever has cars, get as many UVU students out to the polls as much as we can. We're going to pull a Scott Pressler with the Amish, um, and we're just going to send as many UVU students to the polls as much as we can. I've got
Mhm.
BYU students on board with this as well. So even though Utah might not do much, I know the redistricting might throw things into question.
Mhm.
But even though the state of Utah might not have much say in the midterms decision, we're pushing for a huge student turnout as much as we can. And that's kind of how we're going to just keep being loud, keep being proud of who we are. Sure, the midterms might not go out as we like. Doesn't mean it's the end of the world. We still have 28 to focus on if we lose 2026, and 28 is looking pretty good right now. I think at least. I couldn't really tell you who the front runner is with the Democrat Party, but I've got at least 5 people who are on the Republican Party who are, I think, more than well prepared to to be the next president. So
I think we have to be an informed populace, and we have to
yes,
understand that, um, if the Democrats win the midterms, they will push for amnesty for
yeah,
everyone, and they will do whatever they need to make sure that what just happened does not happen again.
mm,
So, but I will leave you with this. There always has to be a plan B. beautiful things happen out of the worst things in history.
Absolutely.
So when Charlie died, I remember standing up and just thinking, what the enemy made for evil, he will turn for good,
Hmm.
and a lot of people started, especially young people, no, all age people, I'd say, started to dabble in their faith. They
Yes.
started to try to figure those things out. And I think a lot of them got pushed to the sides by all the craziness out there, but there is a remnant, and there will always be a remnant. And
Hmm.
in the worst case scenarios, in places that fall to Soviet style
Yeah.
governments, there's still always a remnant. There are always people who hang on to truth. And for me, after listening, because again, I didn't listen to Charlie before.
Hmm.
So after listening to him, he was a man who truly believed in standing up for
Yeah.
truth, loving it, saying it no matter what and at any cost. And I
Hmm.
think that's so admirable, sorry. Redistricting, a problem. It's 250th anniversary for the Declaration of Independence. Signing isn't a good year to get voters out. One is excited to hear about GOTV. I don't know what that means.
The get out the vote.
Oh, get out the vote. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And then this just says, I wonder if Charlie Kirk's family, especially parents and siblings, have reached out, and could your student body be there to help them in that space? Do you know how they're doing? How?
So I was uh, fortunate enough to attend a Turning Point donor meeting
Okay.
where I met Charlie's parents, and we didn't have many words. There was a lot of hugs, a lot of tears, and this was in November or December, so still pretty recently
Oh, wow.
after the tragedy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could give them as many hugs as I could. It was just a somber moment. I know that the memorial committee that UVU has established are also in contact with Charlie's family, just to make sure that they approve of what UVU will put into place.
Are they
And
still going
I'm
to put a memorial up? I thought,
Yes, yeah.
okay, like a
Uh,
full-on statue, not something that can be removed by a bunch of.
Yeah, I don't know if actually exactly
Okay.
if there's going to be a statue of Charlie or what
Okay.
they're
Okay.
explicitly talking about. I've shared my piece, my thoughts to them,
Okay.
um, and we'll see what happens. I have a
Okay.
meeting with them next week actually
Oh,
to discuss
wonderful.
further things. But yeah, I know that his family are included in the talks of the memorial, just to make sure that it's done right, it's done respectfully, and in a way that yeah, these radicals on campus right now can't easily just deface it or trash it, but also it's done right to respect the conservatives on campus too. So yeah, that's as much as I could speak about with Charlie's family. I
Okay.
had the opportunity to meet Erica that same day too, and same story. Not a lot of words, just a lot of tears and hugs.
Not a
Just a lot
monster.
of support. Yeah, she's not a monster. She's not a demon. She is a loving mother who lost her husband. And so yeah, just a lot of just love that I could share to these guys. And they gave it back as the representative for UVU's chapter. I made sure to give it back out to my chapter too after I met them. So that's as much as I could speak about with his parents and Charlie's family.
Caleb, after sorry.
It's okay.
After Charlie died, my son and I went over to that McDonald's over by UVU, and
Mhm.
there were a lot of young people in that room, and they were obviously distraught. And they said, Charlie was the only person who would speak to us young people.
Mhm.
I wanted to talk to you and anybody else who wants to, talk about that process, because there's so many of us not young people who care deeply about what you guys experienced and that you carry the torch.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
Of course, yeah. I feel blessed to, like you said, just a lot of good comes out of historical tragedies, and this is the good. This is, yeah. I feel honored to be put in this position, even though it was a tragedy. That I'm able to just share this message, to share my voice, to share Turning Point's voice, and yeah, carry the torch and continue to help lift up our chapter and the chapters across Utah and the world, and the world really, because Charlie affected everyone in the world, for better or for worse, more so for better. But yeah, I'm just
I would like to see
grateful
Tyler in
for it
his
all.
cell have to watch all of Charlie's videos.
That would be
I feel
nice.
like that would be true justice. Like, and I would hope it would change his heart.
Mhm.
I know some people that it has changed their heart to
Yeah.
just sit and go, why did I hate this guy? And it's been good for them. Well,
Mm.
Caleb, thank you. I don't want to keep you any longer
Nah,
than
you're
that.
good.
I very much appreciate you having this conversation with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, have a great one.
Yeah, you as
Bye-bye.
well. Thank you.